How's it going, everybody? Welcome into New Orleans Saints Now. I am your host, RC Maxfield, here to recap a heartbreaking loss for the New Orleans Saints against the New York Giants, down back in the Superdome after Hurricane Ida. Unfortunately, this game did not go the way of the Saints. Instead, the New York Giants come down to New Orleans and beat the Saints for their first win of the season, 27-21. I know Marshall in the office was happy, but everybody else was really tired of him yelling all over the place as Daniel Jones threw for 402, his highest career passing yard total in his professional career. Jameis Winston finally gets over the 150 mark for passing, but to no avail as the Saints do fall 27-21. Alvin Kamara, a bright spot, rushing for 26 carries and 120 yards. Interesting stat, didn't have a catch. That's weird, but Marquez Callaway did lead the way receiving with a big chunk play, left the game and then came back. He had 2 catches for 74 yards. But before we get back into really who stood out for the Saints, go back to school for me and grade the Saints' performance A, B, C, D, or F down in the comments. Again, this is a heartbreaking loss for the Saints, who moved to 2-2 on the season. But overall, I thought they played pretty well. There were some plays that you'd like to have back. But man, just heartbreaking not being able to win that first game back after Hurricane Ida in the Superdome. As for who stood out for the Saints in this one, Jameis Winston. I thought he looked good on some throws. In typical Jameis form, there was some WTF throws, to say the least, but we've come to expect that from Jameis Winston in his career. But he did go 17 of 23 for 226 yards and 1 touchdown. Thought he had, again, as I mentioned, a couple of throws where you scratched your head, but overall threw into some tight windows and really gave the Saints a chance to win offensively. The most interesting part is Alvin Kamara didn't have a reception in this one, which is usually his bread and butter, making a guy miss in the receiving game. Instead, he had 26 carries and 120 yards, looking like that old self that you really think, is he the best running back in football? Maybe not quite, but he's damn near it, and he's definitely in the top 4. And it was good to see him go between the tackles, make a couple of guys miss. He really didn't have that one run where you were like, wow, but he got nitty-gritty down there between the tackles and really helped move the chains for New Orleans in this one. On the defensive side of the football, Lattimore stood out just for the sheer fact that he was back. It's the second game back after having the surgery to his thumb. I thought he looked good. Could have looked a little better. Just the Saints secondary in general looked a little rough. I thought Marshawn made a couple of good plays, but overall, when you guard Kenny Golladay in a Giants offense that has Jason Garrett as the offensive coordinator, and you allow Daniel Jones to throw for 402 yards, not an ideal day for your secondary against one of the worst passing offenses in the NFL, and that's not really a shot at Daniel Jones. It's more a shot at Jason Garrett and his abysmal scheme of an offense. But Lattimore stood out on a couple of plays and then stood out really in a bad way as well when Kenny Golladay got to him a couple of times, as well as John Ross. And then, what's going on here? I don't know what you're doing, Sean Payton. I'm so confused at the utilization of Taysom Hill at this point. 6 carries, 28 yards, and 2 TDs. One of them made 4 guys miss and might go down as one of the best runs of the year. Literally made 4 guys miss, pushed a couple of defensive tackles off of him, and then had his face mask pulled, but yet still stayed up and got into the end zone. And the utilization is just interesting to me. I get that they're using him closer to the goal line in that red zone type situations, but overall, there's not a lot of consistency outside of that, and maybe if that's what you're paying him that amount of money for, okay, but I'd rather see him used a little bit more, outside of the red zone before you bring him in and really throw off the rhythm of the offense. It worked today, but I don't know how much long-term it's going to work. Obviously, Sean Payton much smarter offensively than me, but just really want to see the rhythm of the Saints offense get together and show flashes of what happened in week 1, but so far they really haven't been able to do that the past 3 weeks. Now, you tell me real quick, your one word to describe the loss to the Giants. I mean, again, you go to overtime. It's the first game back in the Superdome since Hurricane Ida. Everybody came back in full force. You love seeing the Saints fans pack the Superdome, but man, it was just brutal. Just a brutal loss for the Saints in the sense that it felt like you really had that game in your grasp, and then you just basically kind of gave it away with some huge chunk plays to the Giants, and you tip your cap in a way, but at the same time, it doesn't make it any better going into the week in week 5 where you feel like you should be 3-1, but instead you're 2-2. And again, another look at the scoreboard here, 27-21. The Giants will head back to New York City with their first win of the season, taking it against the Saints. Alvin Kamara got back on track in the rushing game, had no receptions. Marquez Callaway led the way with 2 receptions and 74 yards. But Daniel Jones has a career day down on the Bayou and leads the Giants to their first win of the season over the New Orleans Saints down in the Superdome.